5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
How about we do it again?
6, 7, 4, 3, 2, 1. They got fallen.
Okay, let's try one more time.
I definitely.
Ready?
I can move you. Making review. Making review.
Say 6,
6,
5,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the 282nd episode of Rank and Review, and the film club is back in session. This week we're doing slasher sequels, so we're playing with the genre of slashers and the very common horror movie trope of sequels and running your premise or your IP into the ground. I feel like horror sequels, much like action sequels, we give a little bit more of a pass to, but their ubiquitousness is, a double-edged sword, shall we say. So that's the business that we're going to get into on the episode of Rank and Review today, and as usual, it comes with swears, and it comes with spoilers. Please check out the website at ranknreview.ca, and there is a Rank and Review presence on YouTube. We've got like less than 30 subscribers, but if you want to check out some isolated reviews there, or put your rank underneath one of the podcasts to tell me how you would rank them, any kind of traffic there helps get more people to the site, because nobody is paying attention to that site. So maybe if you want to support Rank and Review, that's a way you could do that, by making a comment or putting a like on the YouTube page. But I'm not telling you what to do. I mean, you're already here, you're already listening, and I value that. So as far as what you're going to be listening to, we're going to have a review of Wrong Turn 2 with Scott Lehman and I reviewing, and then The Hitcher 2, Raylee's going to help me with that one. Psycho 3, Lee Beckmann and I will take on that. Wolf Creek 2 with Rick Fehr and myself. Strangers Pray at Night, Jason and I will handle that. And Saw 6 is the one that Matthew Risling was desperately excited to talk about, and we'll be finishing the episode with that review. And in the end, I got to make sense of these ranks and figure out how I would put them from my least favorite to my most. So before we get to that business, I would like to say, check out Jason Dubray's podcast, The Shelf Shedding Movie Show. There are other things to put in your ears other than Rank and Review, with the huge 2-week gap between episodes. And before we get down to the slashing and the hacking, I discussed with Lee and with Jason and with Rick what they want out of slasher cinema and slasher sequels. Thank you for listening. You plug in the formula and the right genre people are going to like it. So this episode of the Film Club, we're kind of getting a twofer, because horror movies, slashers are very common, but also sequels. So I just thought I'd get you to chime in. How do you feel about horror sequels, and how do you feel about the slasher genre?
I love horror sequels. I love even the bad ones. They are the best bad movies you could ever watch.
They're my flavor of bad movies.
Yeah.
There's something about a bad comedy that's insufferable, right?
Oh, totally.
Right? But a bad horror movie can become a comedy, or like can become so ludicrous that it's like almost abstract art to me.
Yeah, 100%. Especially ones that don't take itself too seriously.
Well, please don't take yourself too seriously.
For sure.
And especially the deeper you get into your entries. People dismiss, Jason Takes Manhattan or Jason versus Carrie or whatever. But I mean, when you're in Chapter 7 and 8, I think you got room to play a little bit.
Yeah. Leprechaun in Space, I'm looking at you here.
It's one of the few genres where you're kind of rewarded for playing. Like, in a more straight-faced sequel, people are like, oh no, it's got to be exactly the same, but it's also got to have its distinct identity. Excuse me? How does that work? I've heard that Michael Mann is about ready to gear up to do a sequel to Heat. And
yes,
apparently the book version of it is quite good. And Michael Mann has in the past been a very strong director, but there's part of me that's just like, Heat's a really good movie, you know?
Yeah, it really doesn't need any extras.
It was a nice 3-hour crime epic, and I didn't really leave too much unsaid, you know?
No.
So couldn't this just be another crime epic that's not Heat?
Yeah.
But if the slasher movie, if you want to give me another dozen Friday the 13th, watch me line up.
Yeah, I'm on board, yep.
And you said you loved the slasher genre. Do you have any personal faves?
Halloween, probably, because it's the OG. It's probably was my first introduction to the slasher genre, so it's got to be the Halloweens.
Fair. You and Mr. Lee Beckmann would get along famously. Like, Lee and I seem pretty simpatico. We're both dog people, but he's a Michael Myers guy, and I'm a Jason Voorhees guy, and we've been trying to work through it.
There's no wrong answer, by the way.
That's true. That's true. What you like is what you like. I'm not here to yuck your yum, as the kids are saying these days.
Exactly.
I appreciate a well-executed kill sequence, or a well-executed suspense sequence, or an over-the-top gore sequence.
Okay,
but I don't feel genuinely cheer for the slasher. I hear that brought up a lot,
okay,
but it makes me wonder how many people
find
really
that confusing, since you are a lover of Friday the 13th, and you want to sit and tell me that you are not cheering
I'm not cheering for Jason Voorhees. Jason
I
Voorhees...
find that hard to believe.
Well, I'm not lying to you.
Okay.
But I mean, I go there to see Jason Voorhees kill people, so in that way I am, paying my money to see violence. But I'm not cheering for Jason Voorhees to kill everyone and get away with it. I expect it, because that's what happens every movie.
Yeah.
But he is, to me, the villain.
He's the villain, sure, yes, fair enough, but, I mean, this is fantasy. It's like watching wrestlers. We know that one of them is going to lose, and it's...
Nobody watches a Bond movie cheering for the Bond villain.
No, but you're watching him to do what he does best, right?
You're there to watch
what does Jason do best?
Kills folks.
That's what we're there for. And those... victims are so annoying, much like the ones in this in the one that we're going to talk about, where, I mean, because it's a fantasy and you know that no one's really going to get punished, I think you do side on the killer somewhat.
Maybe I'm wrong, but for me,
I think it depends on the franchise. But even with Freddy Krueger, but the third one, what are the people really going for? They're going to see him, make a sort of
1,000% cheering for the Dream Warriors in Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Fair enough. I'm not disputing that, but the main attraction is Freddy Krueger, and part of it is the inventive kills that Freddy does. We know that he's going to be stopped, and that's going to be it. Like, he will get his comeuppance.
Enjoying the kills is different than cheering for the killer, I think. They're two different things.
Okay.
Like, again, I can appreciate, like, a over-the-top, visceral Terrifier deglove that guy's head. But I'm not like, yay, Art the Clown, good for you. Like, high fives all around. I'm not cheering for him. Apparently people are, because I hear that argument brought up all the time. But I genuinely am not. I want to see how they're going to stop the evil this time. You and I talked about the old Hammer Dracula movies.
Yeah.
Every Dracula movie, he was brought back from the dead, then he kills a bunch of people, and then he gets killed again. Yeah. I'm interested to see how they're going to defeat him this time.
Yep.
But I'm not cheering for Dracula.
Fair enough, but I think deep down inside, I think there's a part of you that does, but...
Okay.
I remember, I was an enormous fan of A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
I put it as my top horror movie of the decade, and I knew they were going to make more, and I wasn't excited about the fact, because this, to me, worked so well in the theater, and is it going to work on repeat? And there's a second one which I defend, and then there's a third one which is all right and is a completely different thing than the others. I just know they're going to do it, whether I like it or not, so I just have to accept it. And same with action movies. I think we do get to a point where we just start expecting it and giving into it a little bit more. I think I'm probably harder on sequels and comedies. Yeah. Very hard on sequels and comedies, and maybe I should be harder on the horror movies, but then I kind of think, okay, yeah, it's not going to be the first experience if it was one that was great. So will it meet the A, B, and C of a slasher movie? And if it does that, then okay, it's fine to a greater or lesser degree. But yeah, don't ruin the original or the mythology of the original. That's when I start to get a little bit more mad at these sequels.
We're deep enough in the weeds with Friday the 13th and Halloween that I feel like these franchises will outlive us.
Yeah.
Like, they're just stories that we're going to repeat, permutations that we're going to repeat. But this echoes in every genre. Like, romantic comedies have, like, 4 or 5 different sort of stories that they kind of weave.
They're still making Sex and the City TV shows. I mean, yeah, it's...
and if you do the formula well, you can earn your sequels or your several seasons or whatever. But it's just the goes without saying nature of it. Almost makes a horror slasher movie that didn't get the sequel, I don't know, like Maniac or Alone in the Dark or something like that. They almost have a little bit more sort of, I don't know, mystique around them because they weren't messed up. I guess it's not a slasher movie, but any excuse to talk about Tremors. I love Tremors. Did we need 7 Tremors movies?
Well, we could have a franchise episode in that. I really enjoy talking about those with you. So, but that has nothing to do with should there have been more, you know.
Well, and again, I love the Tremors, but it would be even more special if it was just this isolated, delicious thing.
Yes.
And
I mean, we got a bad remake to The Thing, which was a remake into itself, but we didn't 2 years later get The Thing 2, and then The Thing 3 the year after, and 4.
Right.
And what would that have done to the legacy of The Thing, of Carpenter's The Thing?
Right.
You know, like Carpenter's Halloween, you know?
Yeah. Well, and again, there's no end to that, but at the end of the day, the original Halloween will always be there. But,
yeah, nothing's happening to these movies. I can go back to A Quiet Place, and I can enjoy it, and...
I will watch every one of them. Like, I'm sounding like I'm being all judgmental, but they're going to make another Friday the 13th movie. And I'm going to watch it.
Someday, yeah.
We have to get out of here.
Yo, what are you talking about?
These hillbilly freaks!
What are they?
Just like you and me, brother, said uglier. And a lot stronger.
Better stand down! What's wrong with you? I'm not kidding! It's not a game, okay?
All right, Wrong Turn 2, Dead End. It's directed by this guy named Joe Lynch, who I think is kind of coming up. His follow-up movies were this Mayhem movie, where people go crazy in an office building, and then this H.P. Lovecraft adaptation called Suitable Flesh, which I also enjoyed, with Heather Graham. This is kind of his first get your foot in the door kind of project. It was released in very few theaters. It was mainly released direct-to-video. Wrong Turn 2, Dead End. And I think what makes this movie work for me is that I can feel the joy in it. I don't think that anybody was holding their nose while they were making this movie. There was nobody who was like, ew, Wrong Turn 2? Really? Is this what we're doing? I feel like they liked the first movie. They built on the first movie. They sort of, spotted that dark humor within the first movie and kind of tripled down on that. The first movie never really explained why these cannibal hill folk were so unkillable, so this movie tries to give us an explanation as to why. And it pits our cannibal killers against reality TV stars, which really makes one question who to cheer for sometimes. But there's joy in this. From the very first kill, when a woman gets split in half with an axe, you're not like, oh no, this was somebody's sister, somebody's mother, somebody's child. No, it's just like, that's an amazing kill. Welcome to Wrong Turn 2.
Like the road is covered in guts and we're happy and all right, I'm in.
All right, so far so good, Wrong Turn 2. And that feeling kind of never really left. Like, is it rough-hewn and in poor taste? Yeah. Does it like openly steal from other movies, most notably Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Yep. Did I enjoy it the whole time I was watching it? Yep. It's not a smart movie, but it's a fun movie made by people who love this type of movie. And you know, so many of these low-budget horror movies are inhibited either by the no budget they have in it, or by the fact that, like, their lead star doesn't want to be there, or the director's making this movie because he thinks it will make money, not because he loves horror movies. I believe Joe Lynch loves horror movies. He's got an appetite for the type of films that you and I would very much enjoy, and he's making this movie just for us. And this is me licking my fingers and saying, "Thank you, sir."
And I guess you're waiting for me to agree with you. Well, yeah. I love the first Wrong Turn. I think is great. I think it's a great movie, and I'm a big fan of it. And Wrong Turn 2 is probably as good as you could get for a sequel for that kind of movie. You're right. It starts off, and you say, "Okay, great. We're gonna do this is Wrong Turn. I recognize this," and the kills are over the top. Yeah, it's fun. I wasn't sure if I was fully into the reality TV show idea, because part of it, I'm not sure if it really made sense that they're setting these traps in the woods, and would they not have noticed, something at some point? But you don't want to nitpick this kind of film.
But there were traps that were setting up games parts for the reality TV show,
what I mean, yeah.
And then there were actual traps set up by the hill folk.
Yeah, and you get Henry Rollins in a starring role, which was kind of fun. He went fully into this. He took it pretty seriously. And I think the humor, I'm not sure if the humor really worked as well. You had that one character where his whole thing was to be the wise, smart guy or smart aleck kind of character. But yeah, the kills all worked, and I can't think of something bad to say about a direct-to-video slasher film.
It's horror movie literate, too. They have a psycho kill in this movie. I really do feel like the production assistant who has to fill in for the contestant who got killed in the opening scene and is not one of these shallow bitches that it just wants to be famous on TV. They really make a point of setting her up that she's going to be our main character, and she's not. And it's not a new subversion, but it's, again, something that people will recognize and appreciate, or it will be genuinely shocking to people who are new to the genre to see this, wholesome woman who's done everything right so far not make it out of Act 1.
Yeah, and we talked about this before, that's as soon as they introduce her, you're like, okay, so she's the final girl.
Here we go.
All these other girls that are dressed in tank tops and booty shorts are going to die soon. And so, yeah, when she got the axe to the head, I was surprised. Yeah. I said, I thought she was...
There was a surprise in Wrong Turn 2. Like, again, I'm already impressed. Yeah, and they do, you're right, sort of talk about the shallowness of the, desperate want for fame that these shows tend to represent. And there is that one scene where the girl just decides, well, I'm just going to take my top off and try to seduce this guy because it'll be good for the show. And I do feel like the movie does kind of stop for that scene.
And at the same time, I think if you're checking off boxes, at some point you need to have that scene in a Wrong Turn movie. It just seems like people are expecting it, and so it's not, whoa, what's going on here all of a sudden? Why is this lady taking her shirt off? It's kind of like,
no, you get it.
The part where the girl takes her shirt off,
and there is some satire to a certain degree there, or where you have these two characters who are constantly sparking off of each other, and you feel like, well, there's going to be, one of them's going to die and the other one's going to, feel some responsibility or something like that. Or they're going to somehow learn a mutual respect between each other. But what really happens is they both get stuck hanging upside down and are simultaneously shot through the head with an arrow. Again, it's weird and kind of hard to sell, but I did not see that coming. Points for me not seeing that coming, because I have watched thousands of slasher movies, it feels like. So,
And when you've seen that many, sometimes it's hard to tell them apart or remember which one was which. But I think of the Wrong Turn movies, I have a hard time remembering which one is part 3 and which one's part 5. But I think Wrong Turn 2 stands out as far as this one's Wrong Turn 2. I'm not going to oversell it. It's like a 3.5 out of 5 kind of.
It is what it is,
Yeah.
but it's earnestly what it is. They loved making this movie, I feel like. Yeah, I mean, Wrong Turn was one of those movies that overperformed the original. Like, it did okay in the reviews. It's sort of like, it is what it is. It's efficient in what it does, but people showed up for it. And, yeah, like a lot of times you're, all right, I'm hired to do a direct-to-video sequel. Let's just do what we can to like hold our nose and get through it. I feel like some of this is a little bit edgy. We get into the fact that the Hill folk is a legitimate family, and they have little kids, and Henry Rollins explodes them. Like, they blow up into jam. It's pretty ugly. And, like, they're terrible kids. They were participating in the murders and using the bow and arrows, and they were cannibals, but you still kind of don't expect to see that violence visited upon the children.
Yeah, and there's some kind of seedy moments too with, a couple of them having sex with each other, and I'm not sure if it's incest or, they look kind of like maybe they're brother and sister or maybe they're...
They were pretending to have sex with each other, I think, to lure them. They were making these weird noises, and it looked at first that they were having sex with one of these victims, but one of them was wearing a wig, and they were just like...
I think she was wearing the other one's scalp or something.
Right, but this was how they were luring our people out.
Yeah, there's some unbecoming stuff that does happen.
But again, I think that if you're coming into Wrong Turn 2, you should have your shields pretty far up as far as this movie doesn't really care about your feelings or being politically correct or, anything like that. This is like, how can we show you something really visceral and gross and funny at the same time? Like, we're going to show you some of the grimmest shit you've ever seen, but you're going to still walk away shaking your head and smiling.
Yeah, I'm into the hillbilly cannibal family subgenre of horror movies.
I prefer Hills Have Eyes personally, but no, Wrong Turn is strong.
Yeah, Hills Have Eyes, it probably has a bit more of like an oh shit kind of feel to it.
Intensity.
A bit more silly.
It's goofy.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You can be goofy. Just know that you're being goofy. It's when you're goofy by accident that things kind of go a little bit sideways. They also brought back a character from the original movie. He always stuck out with me. He was this gas station attendant, and he had like these 2 weird teeth angled funny out of his mouth, and he was drinking Pepto-Bismol. They confirm in this movie that he is indeed part of the family, but it's interesting that was the guy that was, not effed up enough that he could be a, quote, public face, and he was a hot mess. But, again, sort of respect to the original, they brought back that specific character, and they at least pretended to try to answer some unanswered questions from the original. Amped up the humor, amped up the gore, and...
Was there a lot of unanswered questions from the original, though?
I was always weirded out when the hill folk suddenly were unkillable. It seems like they're tough to kill, but in the third act of the movie, all of a sudden, like, an axe in the spine and an explosion, but he's still coming, right? Not a complaint, just something I noticed. They never had made the point that these hill folk were actually zombies or something or whatever that they were. But yeah, in this movie they say that there was some chemicals in the water that caused deformities, and yes, somehow they're really hard to put down.
Yeah, even that first scene when one of them gets hit by the car and he flies over, his legs twisted backwards and it
snaps it back in place.
He stands up here, crack, 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 and
yeah, good to go.
Yeah, and that's there's some gruesome stuff in here.
I think
it's an okay time.
I think that it would surprise a lot of people too. I mean, lower expectation because it's a slasher, lower expectation because it's a sequel, and all due respect, maybe a little bit lower expectations because Henry Rollins is like the biggest name in the movie, but it comes out ahead. It really genuinely tickled me. Again, like you said, I sound like I'm being effusive and this is like the best, most undiscovered treasure. No, but I really enjoy it. I've seen it several times. I will see it several more times.
It's one of the best top 3 wrong turn movies.
That's right. I feel like we have an Alien and Aliens thing happening with Wrong Turn, and that the first two were so solid that the rest, even if they were okay, just have too much to live up to.
I'm hesitant to call Wrong Turn 2 Aliens.
Fair. Sometimes I'm talking out of my ass on this podcast, and that was clearly one of those times. Is there anything else you want to say about Wrong Turn 2 Dead End?
Way better than Wrong Turn 6.
And 3, and 4, and 5. You and I reviewed 3.
Yeah, 3. See, again, I'm getting more confused. The winter one is part 4. That one was all right.
Right. The 3 was the one where the girl got the arrow through the boob in the opening scene.
Oh, that's it. The 3 is pretty good now that you bring that up.
You know what? You're starting to turn me around here.
3 was my favorite now.
The most frightening road trip in movie history.
That guy will kill you!
Was only the beginning.
Thanks, folks. Not too many people pick up a hitchhiker these days.
Now the fear is back in The Hitcher 2.
Look out!
C. Thomas Howell returns in this chilling, all-new thriller.
That guy's psycho. I've been waiting for you.
Starring Carrie Word.
Why are you doing this?
And Jake Busey.
I thought we had an understanding.
Terrifying, edge-of-your-seat suspense from start to finish. Explosive action that never gives up. The Hitcher 2. Evil waits again by the side of the road.
Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
So, I have problems with Hitcher 2. I've been waiting. Part of my problem, though, Raylee, is that I actually really like the original Hitcher movie. It was a formative slasher movie for me when I was a kid in the 80s. I watched it when it was new. And it was wearing its Terminator influences pretty obviously. Like,
the truckers.
Yeah. Well, and just like that, he seems like this unkillable, unstoppable thing. He wipes out a whole precinct of police officers. It's very Terminator. And the original film was as much about, like, chases and helicopters and car crashes as it was about the slasher. But it did definitely deliver the slasher. And yes, I would definitely say that Jake Busey was a considerable step down from Rutger Hauer. Like, Rutger Hauer brought the dread and the fear, and Jake Busey just brings the crazy that he inherited from his dad, right?
Yeah.
But I can, as we talked about it before we recorded this, I can be pretty forgiving of a slasher sequel. This one is 25 years later, and our survivor, Jim Halsey, is not destroyed by what happened to him, even though it was heavily implied at the end of The Hitcher that he was either broken or about to become the new Hitcher. Like, he was a mess. And we established with him 25 years later, and they kind of do this little switcheroo where at first you think he is up to something sinister, but then you realize, no, he's a police officer. He's trying to stop people from suffering the same trauma as he has. So, okay, movie, it's low budget, it's direct to video, but you seem to be being respectful of the original.
I actually, that first 5 minute, like that little bit in the first, like, I was like, oh, this is a solid start to this movie. Like, when they did the switch when he was a cop and they, you know, the cut that they show the cutting of the rope and the little boy or whatever, I was like, oh, this is actually, like, great.
Yeah.
Good start. Solid.
I also think C. Thomas Howell is an okay actor. He kind of, like, had his peak in the 80s, but, like, he never really got that mainstream acceptance, but he's always kind of been around, but I don't think he necessarily sucks.
Like the main Jim character or whatever? Yeah, so he is one of the major villains in Criminal Minds. Like, he plays one of the, like, and I'm, like, a big Criminal Minds, like, it's always kind of on in the background, and he is, like, one of the worst serial killer, like, storylines that show has. So right away I was like, oh, cool, that guy.
Well, I haven't seen any Criminal Minds, but I always felt like he did this really controversial blackface comedy in the 80s, and I think it kind of derailed him a little bit.
I could see how that might be problematic.
Right. But anyway, as I told you before, I was a big fan of the original Hitcher. Jim Halsey made it out of there but damaged, and Captain Estridge barely made it out of there. Most of the police got killed, but Estridge was the one guy who didn't believe that it was just too convenient how this kid was being set up for all of these kills. He was kind of the one smart-ish or sympathetic police officer. This movie kills Jim Halsey and Captain Estridge and his wife. And for some reason, I didn't think I cared that deeply about the original Hitcher, but as an original Hitcher fan, it was like you brought the band back together to kill them. And I think... Quite quickly, yeah.
Yeah, like the first third of the movie.
Carrie Werher then takes over as our lead. She is, again, in a similar position as C. Thomas Howell, in that I don't think she's a terrible actress, but she's always been trapped in these low-budget franchise horror movies. She did
I couldn't place her in anything else.
Yeah, she's in movies like Thinner, or she was in one of the Hellraiser movies. Like, she shows up and she doesn't suck, but she's just never got that role. And it's feeling like that's not. I mean, she worked consistently. Like, good for her, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird because I don't think for a low-budget movie it's badly put together. It does try in its low-budget way to keep up with the Hitcher, but I can't decide if it's just that the movie's bad or that I felt too much disrespect as a fan of the original. But the deeper we got into this movie, the more I disliked it and the less I cared about it. So I can't enthusiastically endorse the Hitcher 2, but I am willing to accept a second opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the reverence that you have for the first one, like, so I have no emotion attached to it. And I remember thinking when I watched it, I was like, oh, it's the solid 90 minutes, 1 hour, 32 minutes, like the classic, you know. And it's like 30 minutes in, I checked the time, and I was like,
oh shit.
There's still an hour, and I'd already only been through like 32 minutes of the movie. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a long one. Even though it's only 90 minutes, it's going to be a bit of a slog. Like, that's like, at 30 minutes in, that was my take on the whole thing. I just, like, yeah, it didn't have any, I don't know, it was, I'm like trying to even find the words to like explain, because I didn't hate it. Like, I wasn't like, this movie is like actively bad. Like, I hate it. I can't, I'm like I'm not criticizing it. Like, I'm not like this, but I'm just like, okay, these are the things that are happening that my eyeballs are watching.
And I should feel more. I thought, sort of felt that.
Like, I just don't really care one way or another.
Oh, he just shot that police officer in the head. Huh.
And at one point I remember thinking, and this is terrible, and everyone who listens to this podcast is going to hate me, but like, this is like the movie No Country for Old Men. That movie was fucking terrible.
Well, yeah, it first
has that vibe of like being on that desert highway, the like wrinkled, withered, like cop guy, this like weird, like,
this violence is happening because on some level it has to be happening.
Yeah, and like the one thing I like, the woman with the crochet hooks or knitting hooks, whatever. Like, they were good pieces. Like, there were good elements to the movie, but they just didn't really work for me.
Yeah. I will also say the original Hitcher was ambitious in that the Rutger Hauer character was initially odd. When he first got into the car as the hitchhiker, you think, oh, this is kind of a strange dude. And then as the car ride goes on, he goes from strange to sinister, from sinister to terrifying. Whereas Jake Busey has resting Satan face. Like, he just looks and sounds crazy from the second he gets into the car. When Rutger Hauer does this and he has all these speeches and stuff like that, you feel like there's something bigger, like mystical, supernatural going on that's bringing all these things about, which is, like I say, he may be infecting Jim with his evil at the end. It seemed like on some level he wanted Jim to be the one to stop him. Why? There was all these questions. You go into the Hitcher Part 2, and what you have is a slasher movie.
And do we ever get the origin of, like, why they are this way?
No, not in the original. Again, you have to put it together. There's a lot of these weird old-timey things, like in one scene he licks these coins and puts the coins over Jim's eyes, like as a fare for the ferryman when he goes to the afterlife. But he doesn't kill him at that point. Like, he does that and then he leaves, and it's so you're like wondering, why is that? Some sort of ritual? What is this about? What is different about Jim? Why this? Why now? And again, I feel like I opened with this, but I want to hit this note hard. If you're doing a sequel of something beloved or these characters, like, and it happens a lot in the most recent Indiana Jones, we catch up with Indiana Jones and his life is shit. He's saved the world dozens of times. He's this epic, intelligent adventurer, but we always have to start him at the bottom, so we give him somewhere to go. And as a fan, that's not what you want. You don't want to see them miserable and whatever. Like, if you're going to bring Jim back to the movie, do something with him, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to make a sequel to The Hitcher, respect the fan base. Don't just make another slasher movie and just shrug it off. The director of this movie, Louis Morneau, can do a guilty pleasure, low-budget movie that works. Personal favorite of mine, a Lou Diamond Phillips starring movie called Bats. Have you ever seen Bats? Right up your alley. That is an absolute Saturday afternoon matinee for Raylee. in that it's not good, but it's kind of awesome, if you know what I mean. That's what I wanted for The Hitcher 2. It didn't have to be great, but just to have that same fun so that I get that energy. And again, maybe leaning, and this is probably a budget thing too, leaning more into the hybrid action slasher thing could be good too. They had a couple of good moments with the big rig and some chasing, but the first movie has helicopters, a whole squad of police, and it sort of gets your suspense, and then it gives you gore, and then it gives you sort of the thrilling car chases. Like, the script might leave a lot of like gaps in it, but the movie's aggressively trying to entertain you the whole time. So.
Yeah, and they tried. I think that, to me, it was probably just a budget thing. Like, they tried to do that with this, and those were the parts that were enjoyable to me, like the semi scene and when she's in the plane, and like those are the scenes like, oh, this could be a really great movie. This is really great. This is super fun. But they were just like really short lived and small in comparison, I guess, like to some of the other ones that I've seen in other movies, or like you said, like to the Terminator vibe or whatever, right?
Sure.
And so it just like, and I actually like thought she was great. I didn't actually like her for the first like 20 minutes of the movie. I was like, you are just this like terrible like leading lady, like probably being like, this is the worst road trip ever. Why did they guard like? And then, but she actually won me over by the end of the movie. Like, I was like, actually, she's pretty badass. Like, she did a good job of like redeeming herself.
I feel like her character does level up through the through the story, but it also
like,
is
not relying on Jim anymore, right?
Oh, no.
Like when, like on her own, she's like, holy shit, he fucking picks it up.
Yeah, and she's again, just like in the original, being framed. Somehow she is being accused of being responsible for all of this, which kind of leaves another question. And this is something I've been running into with a lot of horror movies. At the end of the movie, when she's satisfied, like is conclusively killed the Hitcher, but every other cop and witness is dead. How does she explain all of this? Like, what happens after this? Does she go to jail? Is she traumatized? Or 25 years later, does she go on another road trip and get killed by a Hitcher and pass the baton on to someone else?
Like, yeah, actually thinking that, like, what is the end for her? Like, yeah, like at the end of that movie, I was thinking, like, where does she go now? Does she just get police cars and, like, drive? Like, she's also has no vehicle. Like, she's just stranded on this road, right?
Yeah. The worst. Sorry.
I did kind of wonder where her path took her after this movie.
Yeah. The worst example of this is Happy Death Day. Do you know Happy Death Day? It's like Groundhog's Day, but this girl's getting killed every day, so she's trying to figure out who's killing her on her birthday. And through the series of hundreds of days or whatever it is, she finally figures it out. And on the last morning, she kills her would-be killer. and then presumably would go to jail for the rest of her life.
I guess. Yeah.
Right? It's just interesting. Like, once that seed got in my head, I thought, there's a lot of horror movies where this is an open-ended problem.
Right.
But this is the stuff, like, we've been talking about Hitcher 2 for a while, and I feel like I'm barely talking about Hitcher 2, right?
Yeah, we're talking about all the other movies that have influenced it, or we wanted it to be, or we wished it could be.
I see what you're going for, movie, but I don't think you got there. But I'm not hateful. I'm not vitriolic or anything.
I think the villain was just problematic right from the start. Like, he wasn't even scary. Like, he was just, like... I was trying to think of, like, other characters that I could, like, compare him to. And there isn't, like, I know there's someone in my head that I'm thinking of, and I just can't, like, pull them forward right now. But I'm just, like, he wasn't even, like, creepy or scary or sinister. He was just, like...
crazy.
Yeah, but, like, loopy. Like, not even crazy in a good way. Because crazy can be good, like, depending. It was, like, just, yeah... He's just kind of silly.
On some level, we have to believe that they would let this person in their car.
Yeah, and, like, I just kept going to him to, like, laugh, like, yuck, yuck, yuck. Like, I don't know. Like, he just, right from the start, like, he just didn't impress me or didn't win me over in any way as a villain. And I think if someone else would have entered the car, like, I think the setup was enough that if that character would have been better, I could have had more buy-in. But I just was like, this guy is too fucking stupid to do any of this. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not pulling any of this off. So I just was like, this is stupid.
Yeah. And that kind of stuff happened in the first movie too, but you were too into it and you were like, you thought it was some of the mystery. Where in this movie, it just feels sloppy screenplay. And, nobody particularly cared. They just wanted to get this to the next project, I guess.
And, like, I think for me, if I were to have done Hitcher 2, if I were to have written and created and directed this movie, I think the whole storyline would have just been Jim going back and, like, basically him becoming that character, right? Like, that would have been fucking solid if he's, like, doesn't realize that he's the Hitcher, but then he, like, gets back and it's, like, this PTSD, like, puts him back there, and then he hunts the girl. That would have been fucking great.
Yeah.
But that movie didn't happen. That wasn't the movie we watched.
No, I think, like a lot of solid slasher movies, the best case scenario would be if they'd have just not made the sequels, but alas. And they waited so long, like... The Hitcher would still be this, well, and it still is kind of this lost gem of the 80s, but it would be like The Burning or some of the other ones just before dawn, that they were not even besmirched by a shitty sequel. Well, The Hitcher has been besmirched by a shitty sequel.
Did they do any more after Hitcher 2?
They did a remake where Sean Bean played the Hitcher, and that's much better casting. It's okay, but I don't think it improves on the original. It doesn't sort of... justify its existence necessarily, but it's
kind of straight through remake.
Yeah, but it's quick. It's like 80 minutes and fast and aggressive, and he's hunting a couple instead of just one guy. So they mix it up a little bit, but I think the Hitcher from 87, I think I want to say, or mid 80s Hitcher, that's the only essential Hitcher, I say in air quotes. Good enough?
Need to watch that in order to make this make sense. Like, this movie did stand on its own and gave enough context to, like, Yeah. You weren't lost in the narrative. That's another good thing about slashers. You can sort of be distracted and still catch up to what's going on. Yeah. Fairly quickly, hopefully. But yeah, like, it was fine. Fine. Another classic. That is my official review. Fine. Yeah, I watched it when I bought it, and I watched it for the podcast, and I can't imagine doing a Hitcher marathon. I may never watch it ever again, and that's okay. And that's okay. And I don't know, I always say, like, I don't know who I'd recommend this to. Yeah. And that's where I land on it. Boom.
The guy just wants to be left alone in peace.
Aren't you going to take him in for questioning or anything?
Just leave him alone. Norman Bates is back to normal. But Mother's off her rocker. Again.
Norman, is that you?
Yes, Mother. It's me. Bates Motel.
Aside from total boredom, nothing's going to happen to you here.
I can't have that sort of thing going on in my motel. Gives the place a bad name.
Why are you so kind to me?
You remind me of someone.
I figured Bates was a geek, but a full-fledged Looney Tune?
Norman!
I'll get you for this, Mother.
You haven't got the guts, boy.
Psycho 3.
Yes.
Directed by Anthony Perkins.
Yes, interesting choice.
Weird movie. The whole franchise is strangely solid-ish.
Yes.
Like, it starts off with, like, obviously a Hitchcock classic, but the second movie really tries as much as possible to outrun the fact that it doesn't need to exist.
Yeah.
And it does way better than you think it would. Like, going into Psycho 2, you're not expecting much from it, and it actually kind of delivers.
It overperformed.
Psycho 3, kind of like, maybe because of the overperformance of Psycho 2, was necessitated, and they probably got Perkins back on the agreement that he got to direct.
Yeah.
And I do think the directing is a little wonky here at times.
Okay, how so?
There's just some strange, desperate editing at times, and there's some attempt at the sort of Alfred Hitchcock sort of stagey moments.
Sure.
But because he comes from a different time, and this is very much an 80s movie, like, they sort of stand out to me as, this is my Hitchcock shot, or this is my blank, fill-in-the-blank shot.
Okay.
I also think because of the 80s, there's some weird distortion in the script here of even characters that I think we're supposed to either like or be interested by, we kind of dislike.
Yeah.
Like, there's a journalist who's investigating Norman, but she seems really shitty about the way she goes about things, the way she treats people.
Yeah.
Her lack of belief in Norman at any point. She turns out to be right, but she just doesn't seem like a good journalist or a good person. The Jeff Fahey character is, like, very, very aggressively gross and sexual towards women, and sometimes it pays off for him, but sometimes it doesn't.
But
it sure doesn't make us like him.
No,
or
he
find
is
him
very unlikable.
Yeah, he's not like a wild card or a mysterious figure. He's just a fucking asshole. And then in the third act, he goes crazy.
Yeah.
And then the strangest one for me is this woman who we meet at the beginning of the movie.
There is no God.
Yeah, Diana Scarwood playing Maureen. She was going to be a nun, but she had a crisis of faith and inadvertently, accidentally killed a nun that was trying to stop her from jumping off of a bell tower. And she has this absolutely brutal origin story, and we know that the path is going to lead her to Norman Bates. And you figure, like, typically, especially with all of the work they put into her character, it's going to be about her sort of redemption arc, or like either her finding God or something. And again, that character completely dead ends, and the decisions she makes are, I mean, she's crazy when we meet her. She stays crazy. She tries to kill herself.
She has a lot of trauma. She's going through it.
Yeah. I mean, of all the characters, she has maybe the most excuse for her behavior, but nobody seems to act like authentic people.
No, they do not. Movie. No, they're all just a little left of center or whatever.
That said, saying all that, and I'm sorry, I know that was a lot, but I think on a bare bones thriller slasher level, it still kind of mostly works and does the job in a, like, paint by numbers. Yes, this is another one of these slasher thrillers.
Yeah.
But I think compared to the two that preceded it, it definitely hurts by comparison.
Sure.
It's a watchable throwback to the 80s, but yeah, I wish I could have hung on to some of the characters more than I could. So that's where I start with Psycho 3.
Well, the movie really wants you to cheer for Norman and for him to not get caught. I think whether you find that successful or not depends on how strong you think the movie is. I was kind of rooting for Norman a little bit. We all know that he's the villain. I mean, he is dressed up and he goes around killing people. But, like, the movie does kind of ask you, how, you know, will he get caught? How he gets out of here? Oh, like, you know, the whole hand on the ice thing. Whether you buy that or not is up to you. It is a risky gamble, but I'm sure it's what the screenwriter Charles Edward Pogue and the director at least tried to do. It is crazy, this film. Like there is just kind of a logic. I don't know, logic is the word I would use, but it's on a different universe, this film.
Truth be told, obviously, like I said before, Psycho didn't need a sequel at all, but they did do a very respectful sequel anyway.
Yeah.
This sequel definitely didn't need to happen, right? And in the second movie, he was being played as if he was reformed. Like, there was death that was going on around him.
Well, I know that was the big mystery. Is he or isn't he, snapped and gone back to being Mother?
But the end note seems to be, yes, he is more or less reformed until the big stinger ending, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he's off the script. I guess that does make sense. In the third movie, he is a killer again. That has happened.
Yeah.
He has a new mummified mom up in his bedroom, so he's fallen back on his old habits. But without the will there, won't they, it's just a slasher movie. And we know who the slasher is, and we kind of know who's going to live or die. The only real wild card was the journalist, and I would have been just as happy if she'd have died as well.
Yeah. Well, I think the fact that you kind of like Norman if you forget the fact that he's got these impulses. He's a very sweet guy. He's shy around women and he gets sexually excited pretty easily.
He's a product of a tough environment.
Yes, he is. So they're like you kind of feel like, ah, Norman, and then he starts talking in the mother voice, and you remember that, oh no, there's a reason why this guy lives alone, and is probably going through some things. So I think that's one that works for the character. I don't know. Like I said, the fact that like the majority of the characters you have a hard time liking. You do love the nun character. You keep. I mean,
she makes strange choices, but she's at the mental end of her tether.
Yeah.
Jeff Fahey's character tries to basically rape her at the beginning of the movie, and this is just a few days after she accidentally killed a nun. And then she tries to kill herself, and then within a couple of days she's falling in love with Norman Bates. Each individual beat is just too sudden and too big to really register as authentic, but because she's so damaged, we cheer for her, and we're like, at least I understand why you're acting the way you are acting, whereas most of the other characters, you don't get that.
Well, she definitely has PTSD. Like, she is in post-traumatic shock. If you stop and think about it, and the fact that she feels just as broken as Norman is, you just kind of go, but this romance will never work. I mean, eventually she'll find Mother, and things will unravel. But no, it's a relationship you just want to work.
But it's a horror movie, and no good deeds go unpunished.
Yeah.
After he has actually started killing some of the other tenants at the hotel, he's not redeemable anymore.
No. And the fact that he does kill like two rather nice women who just were in the wrong place at the wrong time as well.
Like, even in the original Psycho, you could make the case that he was unaware of the split personality. In this case, you couldn't. He's just gone back to everything that was wrong before.
Yeah. This actually kind of reminds me a little bit of that film Peeping Tom, which is far more successful than this movie. But you are basically rooting for this woman. We know that he's the killer, and he's essentially trapped her in that whole apartment or house, or at least room. And it's so tense knowing how dangerous this guy is, and you just want this woman to get out the entire time, which she does eventually. Yeah. It kind of felt like it should have been a little bit like this. Like Peeping Tom, Psycho 3 should have been a little bit more like Peeping Tom in that sort of regard, where we know Norman is like dangerous the entire time, and you do have this, sweet character that is just always in danger, and it's a big sort of tete-a-tete. I think that would be sort of a cool idea for a Psycho sequel, but I don't know.
It was tough. I also think doing double duty of starring in the movie and directing might have hurt both ends, both the directing and the... He does his, Anthony Perkins' weird little smile and his uncomfortable, jittery looks. Yeah. And he did that in the first two movies, and this was the only time it really started to feel put on to me.
Okay. At the same time, no one knows Norman any better than Anthony Perkins himself.
Sure.
I didn't mind it. He's a very repressed character. And it does add like another kind of weird layer that, very much in his life he was, a closeted that always kind of went through my head the entire time. With he was very much a closeted gay man,
he's got this secret that he's suppressing, and it's kind of eating him alive. Sure, you could sort of see that comparison. I also think the movie's wounded a little bit by the sort of 80s framing of it and the other popular slasher movies of the time.
Sure.
Another slasher movie could have that same amount of sleaze and nudity to it, and it wouldn't stand out the way it does here in the Psycho movie.
There is a level of sleaziness in this movie that just seems kind of foreign to the whole...
I mean, I know sexuality and temptation is important to Norman's character, so it's not like it could be without it, but it's how it's presented through the Jeff Fahey character and some of the other women that he interacts with. It's just, it's hard to believe. I also wonder
if... It feels very forced, too. Like, it's just not even like the male gaze. It's just straight on the female anatomy.
Here's some titties for you, boys.
And now it's like that one shot of the female buttocks. It's like it just stays there, and you're almost like it's not then going towards the vajayjay a little bit, and you're just like, okay, dudes.
Like all of these movies are exploitive and they're thriller movies, but Psycho had never played that note that hard. I also wondered about the death in the bathroom, if he was like trying to not kick it up a notch from the slashing in the shower. But I think it's so gross that he cuts this woman's throat while she's peeing on the toilet. Like there's something so awful, and this woman had done nothing really to trigger him. She was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And it was like nice. Like we already established that she was actually trying to protect that nun character. So that one was like, aw.
The brutality of that kill just seemed out of sync of anything else. In another slasher movie, you'd be like, holy shit, they really went hard on that one. That one just seemed like it was, again, from a different movie. Kind of like the nudity we were talking about. It's absolutely part of the slasher form, but maybe not Psycho. Maybe not Psycho, because I do think that it, as much as it invented slasher movies, or so it is claimed, these are thrillers as much as they are slashers. They do run on suspense and psychology.
There is very much an exploitive feel to this one that is not there in both in the first and the second one. So yes,
it's kind of the Friday Five of this series.
Possibly, yeah. just a little bit.
Hey, people love Friday Five. I'm not even necessarily...
but there's a scummy factor with this one.
It's a little sleazier.
Good on you, Anthony. Good on you.
I feel like it was probably part of the menu, though, right? It was like, you can direct a new Psycho movie, but it's got to be violent. We've got to have some sexuality. We got to compete with Freddy Krueger here.
Yeah. No, it's strange. Like, I actually was reading an interview with him recently about Psycho 3 in preparation for this, and he talked about how he loved the screenplay where it had all those sort of classic Hitchcockian traditional slopes, but there was a really sort of off the hook strangeness to it that sort of appealed to him. It's very much there, even with the lighting. Like, it's just some of the shots, they're not even quite Dutch angles. They're just a little bit off, and I do admire the lunacy of it, but at the same time, there is a nasty sort of exploitative, trashy element to this that I don't even know it's in the fourth, or if there's even beyond this one.
Yeah, again, the fourth is a little bit more made for TV and vibe, and it gets into his origin as a young man and his relationship with his mom. But this one just feels like a wannabe contributor to the 80s slashers. And I say this as a person who loves those 80s slashers.
Yeah.
Psycho usually was attempting to be a little bit more than that. I feel like I've focused on the negative, though. I mean,
I like this movie. That's the thing.
It went down easy. I wasn't laughing at it. I would comment, like, what's with this character? Or, geez, they're really focusing on this woman's breasts a lot. But, like, I wasn't bored or, like, irritated by it. I was just like, wow, what a strange time capsule of a movie.
I did admire its lunacy a little bit. Like, just the mention that you said, like, all the characters are completely unhinged. The only really, the town sheriff, because he's rooting for Norman, but everyone else, like I said, the film does sort of ask you to sort of like Norman, and hopefully he doesn't get caught, or, he doesn't spiral into madness, even though he's clearly there. It's just an odd duck, but I like it.
The win should be him being able to beat the psychosis of his mother, which he quote-unquote does at the end of this movie. But, that's what the battle should have been about, instead of this sort of last-minute... Like, obviously it's Psycho, there's going to be some murders, but I think that the suspense should be us saying, please don't do this. please don't do this.
Yeah.
Please don't make this decision.
Yeah.
Not like cheering for him to kill them. It should be the opposite. Whereas, like you say, in a lot of the other slasher movies, we're there to see the killer do the killing and on some level are complicit.
Yeah.
So, Psycho hadn't been that until this entry. But for being that type of movie, it doesn't suck at it.
No.
It just makes it stand out. It's probably the weakest of the Psycho films. I'd have to watch them all and do a proper reassessment.
That is true.
But it's pretty interesting that, a slasher, franchise with 4 entries have this strong a consistent sort of spread to it. So I don't want to talk you out of watching Psycho 3, anybody out there. Well, I just want you to measure your expectations. It's like a 3-star slasher movie that holds your attention.
Fair enough. No, that's pretty fair.
Taylor's a name. Big shooter and outback legend. Expect to come to my country. Waltz around like you own the bloody place. Come between a man and his meal and just work away. Rough, ain't it? You're nothing but foreign vermin. Distinct, introduced species. And it's up to my kind to wipe your kind out. Hey! Let's play, eh?
You'll have to do better than that!
So, Mr. Rick Fehr, I have an interesting relationship with Wolf Creek. I haven't seen the TV show. There's, I guess, a 2 or 3 season TV show produced out of Australia. But I have seen these 2 movies. And I think it was the wrong day when I first saw the original Wolf Creek. Because I remember at first being kind of bored by it and then just finding it more unpleasant than entertaining. Mm-hmm. But then I came back to review it on the podcast after getting to know Greg McLean a little bit more. He's done movies like The Belko Experiment and Rogue. Okay. And he's like got a whole other career outside of the Wolf Creek franchise. And when I came back to review the original Wolf Creek for the podcast, I saw some real kind of smart decisions and good technical filmmaking. And yes, it got really messed up in the second half of the movie. But if you go in prepared for that messed up, it's a little bit of a different experience. Mm-hmm. So entering into Wolf Creek 2, I was kind of curious to see what it would be, but I wasn't sure if I was going to accept what they were going to give me. And it is not the same vibe as the original Wolf Creek. The original Wolf Creek kind of takes its time to let you into the horror, whereas this movie is completely they go from 0 to 100 right away, and I appreciate that. I don't want to be sort of twiddling my thumbs unless there's some real anxiety happening for the first half of the movie, but they consciously made this a different animal, and that is a plus. And I think that's what I'm going to be saying when I talk about this movie. Here's something that I really like that is a plus, and here's another thing that I'm not sure how I feel about, which is kind of a minus. I think when all is said and done, at least as a first-time viewing, I had more fun with Wolf Creek 2, but some of my reservations about Wolf Creek kind of climb over into it. You know what I mean? So it's set in the Outback, and we have John Jarratt is the actor who is playing Mick. He seems like a super friendly, Australian guy living in the Outback, and he's really good at putting on a false, charming face. Like, you maybe don't exactly trust him, but you don't dislike him right away. And that is sort of the power of the character and kind of the compelling thing about him, because he's not a killer without a voice. He's not like complete evil Satan face. Like, he can pass for normal. But at this point, he has hundreds of victims, presumably, and we hear terrible things. Like, he threatens this woman, like, I'm going to take you home for a few months of fun. Yeah. And that the sort of the sexual connotation of that is unmissable, and like that makes me uncomfortable.
Horrifying.
Yeah. But I do think there is a subset of horror audiences, and I'm not going to talk shit about them. Lee and I were talking about, do you cheer for the killer? I typically don't cheer for the killer, but I definitely don't cheer for the killer in Wolf Creek. He reminds me of R. Lee Emery in the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the pre-make of the... Like, I hated him so much. Like, his character was so infuriating. Like, I felt almost energized by it. I just couldn't believe, like, how awful he was. This guy has that, but because he's kind of the main character of this movie, at times I'm not sure of the psychology behind him. Like, are we supposed to find him charming and hilarious? And are there portions of the audience that do? I'm right down the middle. It's a technically amazingly made movie. It combines action and horror, just like The Hitcher, which is another one of my favorite slasher movies.
Yes.
So I really want to be enthusiastically endorsing it. But there is a chunk of grime and depravity that kind of pulls me back and does take some of the fun away from the proceedings. But I'm happy to hear a second opinion. Talk me into this.
From a character standpoint, like you said, psychologically speaking, he fits the prototypical psychopath. Charming, socializing. If you're sitting in a bar in the Outback, he's the guy you want at the table drinking with, right? And that's the horrifying part, because that's if you look at serial killers and psychopaths in real life, so to speak, that he kind of fits the mold. He's charming. He kind of makes you feel uncomfortable when you sense something wrong with him, and he's like, "Well, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Just trying to help you out here, trying to make you feel guilty." And there was a line in "Girl with the Dragon Tattoo" where he said, "The fear of being rude overrides the fear of danger."
Yeah. And
that's kind of the feeling you get with this guy sometimes. But then he just goes just crazy and just starts hacking away, and that whole facade is gone.
I do think he's lost his subtlety. In the first movie, you got the feeling like he was highly selective and careful. He would target tourists, and he would, be careful about things. Where in this one, he's stealing semi-trailers and like causing elaborate car wrecks, blowing the head off of police officers. It starts to stretch credulity how he's managing to get away with it, except for the fact that he lives in this vast Australian desert, and his home seems to be some kind of abandoned mine that no one knows exists or something. But I think they set out to create an Australian boogeyman, and I think that they were very successful in that degree. That's a plus.
He's actually based off a real-life Australian serial killer, actually, very loosely based.
Yeah.
The serial killer, I think his name was Malott, something Malott, anyway.
But he killed backpackers.
He would basically just dump the bodies in the woods. So that's like one of the main differences. But the movie kind of suffers from most sequels of the slasher genre where they have to dial it up.
Yeah.
But they may have dialed it up a little too much certainly in the second half.
Yeah.
Perhaps not the first half, but yeah.
And I didn't like the callback when he tries to make another head on a stick unsuccessfully. Yeah. I was like, you did that in the previous movie, and it was really disturbing. Doing it here, I don't know about that. That's a point against it. As much as I kind of get the visceral, gross, guilty smile of them smucking all of the kangaroos, they were pretty CG to me.
It was a little much. Yeah, we were like, well, I don't think we really needed that. I mean, we already got the impression that he's a bit of a psycho.
Or maybe he could have just hit one kangaroo.
Maybe like 5 or 6. Yeah, a little much.
But everything else in the movie, the violence, the special effects, and the car wrecks were top tier. So it was also kind of a thumbs down that they had this one weak special effect just for kind of a reaction shot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Shock factor. Did you find any characters to connect to other than Mick?
Not really, to be honest. That's kind of what I like about both Wolf Creeks, actually. I didn't really feel a connection to any of them. It was awful what happened to them. It's not like I liked them or anything. The gentleman in question, the main victim in this one, where he kidnapped, and the give and take between them when they were in the mine. What a great scene! Love that scene.
And he finally caught somebody who actually has some respect and knowledge for Australia. They're not just like there to take advantage of people or whatever resentment he has.
Yeah.
He's committing in his mind cultural vengeance. I mean, he can justify anything that he does at any moment because of his psychopathy, but like he loves Australia, so he feels like he's keeping it clean of the foreign menace or whatever.
His justification, if he needs any,
which he really kind of doesn't.
He doesn't, but whatever gets you through the night, man.
I was ahead of the movie because of the first movie, that I shouldn't depend on any of the victims to be our quote final girl or our through line character. And I'm not sure if the TV series came after this or before, but I got the feeling like they wanted to franchise this. And there's a double-edged sword to that, in that there's kind of only a couple ways the movie can end. And most often it's everybody dies except for the bad guy. And you got to be kind of delicate on how you pull that off. But he lets one guy lives, which is, I guess, true in the first one.
In both of them,
Yeah, I wonder, if it could be implied that he left that guy assuming out there in the middle of nowhere, assuming he would escape because he wasn't as interested in the guy, and he needs someone to tell the tale, as it were.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that he left him the note, loser.
Yeah.
Right. That tells you, like, you lost, buddy.
And then he ends up subsequently going crazy and being institutionalized, And again, I guess we could expect that, but it takes some of the expectation out of the movie, which is why I knew when we met the initial couple, like, don't invest in anything with these characters because they're not. And if I was shocked by it, like when that woman got the headshot when the guy ducked at the right time, in another movie that would have been, oh shit. But I was just like, I just nodded. Yep, that was going to happen.
That tracks,
Yeah.
The part where he says, you'll have to replace her, and he has dangled the dress.
Yeah.
Love it. Terror.
But he is despicable. He is despicable.
Oh, yeah.
Lee and I were talking. He's like, don't you cheer for the slasher? And I'm like, usually I don't. There are moments where when a character does something so stupid, or when a character is so hateable, I'm like, okay, whatever. You don't even deserve. But typically, psychologically, I don't want to be on side with the killer, or I'm not on side with the killer, and that's not a problem with Wolf Creek at all. If you're on side with Jean Jarret, if you find him genuinely entertaining or amusing, maybe talk to somebody.
You may have some sociopathic tendencies.
I mean, I don't want to be judgmental, but yes. And I suppose we should call how gloves off the movie is. The gore in it is like over the top. Like, wow.
And they make sure you know it right off the bat.
Yeah, police officer gets his head blown off, and we have people's genitals being cut off of their corpse. We have just raw butchery. And, you have to come in ready for that. This isn't Jason comes around a corner and swings the machete and thwack. That was a cool special effect. No. It's much more drawn out. And the fear and the anxiety and the horror is much more drawn out, which I think makes it a much more effective horror movie than your average Friday the 13th, but significantly less fun than your average.
That's what makes him a true terror, because it's the sadistic part of him that he gets joy out of their pain, psychological pain, physical pain. He loves it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's built into it. Like when he does the whole trivia game about Australia with the guy, he's like, as an afterthought, oh, and by the way, any question you get wrong, I'm going to saw off one of your fingers. Because we have to get violent here. Like, it's not like I'm going to sit here and drink with you all night. There's going to be blood.
Yeah, it's not going to end well.
Yeah,
I assure you.
I do think that it does have that adrenaline value to it. Like, it kind of gets your blood up. It gets you mad, and then the car chases happen, and it is entertaining. But I feel mixed on my reaction. It's just a grain or two darker than I typically like. Every now and then, I can get into a Wolf Creek or a Hills Have Eyes, but I'm much more into a Halloween or a Friday the 13th.
I appreciate the gore fest. I'm more of as you like, obviously Halloween, where the violence is implied or minimized. But I do appreciate a good gore fest, and it's not like your typical. The Wolf Creeks came around the time when all the torture porns were really popular.
Yeah,
but it's not your typical torture porn movie either.
No,
so
it does have its own very distinct identity, and I definitely put that in the plus column for sure.
Definitely, yeah. And you don't. It's unexpected. You don't really know which way it's going to go.
I sort of do, but you don't know moment to moment. But
yes.
You know where we're going. We just don't know how you're going to get there.
Yeah, the end result. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say about Wolf Creek 2? Have we covered it?
I think we covered it. I should note that I had thought I had never seen it before, but apparently I had seen this one, but I'd never seen the first Wolf Creek.
Oh,
so I ended up watching Wolf Creek 2 and then watching Wolf Creek 1.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
So
I watched it backwards. It did not take away any of the joy, though.
No, did it feel slow to you after watching the second one? Because the first half of Wolf Creek, not a lot happens, as I remember.
The first half, it felt much slower. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, with purpose. So.
Yeah, no less enjoyable. Yeah. Just slower.
This place seems empty.
I think everybody leaves after Labor Day.
This is nice, right?
There's someone else staying here?
Is Tamara home?
I think you have the wrong trailer.
I thought we were all alone. What the hell? Dad?
So there was this home invasion movie called The Strangers, written and directed by Brian Bertino, and it kind of overperformed for me on the level of the suspense and sort of the unpleasant kind of place that it left you in, and like the lack of explanation of why all of this was happening was compounding the horror, and it was well done. And what I really kind of got into about the sequel is how they did not repeat themselves. I mean, I have this feeling like you may lose some respect for me during this review, Jason, but I really appreciated, and Bertino was contributing to the screenplay here, so he has a creative hand, that the payoff was that they didn't actually repeat the same movie and leave you in that same place, but that they kind of did a definitive finish to the story of The Strangers. And they did it in kind of a weird 80s throwback style. I got some, they were emulating Carpenter, and they had this sort of 80s style horror score that was a little bit more present than you hear in a lot of horror movies these days. And it maintained the meanness of the original Strangers movie, but still somehow manages to be fun. I also think it benefits with its efficiency. It's 85 minutes long. It's got a very clear direction. You may know what that direction is, but the stakes are ramped high because it's a family instead of a group of unlikable teens, and the payoffs are strong. I didn't find a bad performance anywhere, and I mean, horror slasher movie repetitive cliches of the unkillable killer and like the random boo that doesn't maybe necessarily make sense but is a sort of a spice that is expected in the mixture. I really liked it. I liked it quite a lot. Like, I had a lot more fun with it. And from Johannes Roberts, who brought us like 47 Meters Down Uncaged.
Which I liked.
And Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Look, he has a career. Like, he's got a resume. He's got a lot of movies behind his belt and everything like that.
Yeah, Primate's doing well in theaters as we speak, as we record this.
I haven't seen it, but I would watch the shit out of a Killer Monkey.
Yeah, I know you would.
It's going to happen. But yeah, it overperformed for me. Maybe like the lowered expectations of sequels, the lowered or middle expectations from the director because I've sort of run hot and cold on him. But I had a lot of fun. I don't know what to tell you. I had a lot of fun. Maybe I'm not proud about it, but I did. I was happy to see the story ended. I felt that I didn't necessarily want another, quote, Wolf Creek kind of ending where I was just like, now I'm going to go have a shower. What did you think of Strangers Pray at Night? How crazy am I right now?
No, you're not crazy. I like it. My thumbs up. The Strangers is a movie that like deeply freaks me out, like on multiple viewings. I had watched it, but I had forgotten the title, which was not a great sign when we did our best of the aughts.
Right.
And I was getting mixed up with another movie, and then it didn't end up on my list, even though it should have. And then I saw it later, and I was like, oh, it was that movie. Idiot. Why was that not on there? And I reviewed it on my show with, do you know Curtis Anderson?
Maybe to see him.
Yeah. Anyway, he was my guest on that one. We were in different places, but part of it is he said he got married young, and he's never had a time where he hasn't been alone. I've been by myself. I've gone up to lake property by myself on a weekend, and that movie was really effective in the sense that what if I got a knock on the door in the middle of the night and I was the only person in this remote area, and this kind of a very strange home invasion attack happened. Like that still, like talking about it, it actually really creeps me out. And you know, not a lot that actually does creep me out. So I heard about, I don't know if it had a theatrical run. I don't remember it having a theatrical run with the Pray at Night. Yeah, it just slipped past me. I would see it when I would be like looking at Blu-rays, like just doing some window shopping, that kind of thing. And I'm like, is that a sequel to The Strangers? Oh, I'm not prepared for that, and I had not watched it until for your show. So going in arms crossed because of the effect that The Strangers had. I have a lot of things in here where I would say there are criticisms and leaps in logic, as you said, because that's to be expected. It felt to me like this is a standard horror movie. The cat's out of the bag, so is it scary? Not so much. Like the psychological terror of the first one is a truck coming to like smash into you. This have the same level of psychological terror. No, it doesn't. So I can't expect it to be as scary. It's still pretty creepy. Every time that girl knocks on the door, in this case the trailer park, that all of that really works well. They went to some places that I thought, okay, this is going to be a franchise and they're not going to go to in the third act. And I don't know exactly. There's one reveal that happens and I'm not sure we needed to have. One of the masked characters, I did not want to see her face. Right. I just honestly, I would like, we don't see the faces of the others. I did not want to see her face. I just wanted her to be like some sort of like whatever girl with a voice that sounds like she's in trouble and in danger is still out there somewhere. As a criticism. But if it's a standard slasher film, that A, B, and C I talked about in the introduction of what I'm looking at, if it's a slasher sequel, it was all there. Yeah. So there's a lot to like. There's really good cast members. Bailey Madison is the teenage girl. Absolute cliche. Like, she's being sent off to this boarding school, is so mad at her mother and her family, and is doing all of these things, angsty, and they're going on this trip, and the brother doesn't want to go too, and they go to like the creepiest place they could ever possibly go to stay on the road to dropping her off at boarding school. And don't pick up on the hints that this is probably not the place that we should be staying tonight. Way too late. But in the end, I think Bailey Madison does a really good job of centering the film. And Christina Hendricks plays her mother. Yeah. They have a really natural kind of mother-teenage daughter dynamic happening. I kind of think Christina Hendricks is a bit that sounds really dismissive of the film, so you might get mad at me, overqualified for this role, because there's so much that this woman can do, and I don't know why she's not getting the roles right now that she should have, but here, spoilers for the movie, we don't have enough screen time with her. And I thought the previous movie was much smarter in the sense where we had Liv Tyler right up till the end of the film, continually being tortured and thinking that they're going to win and run into all these obstacles. The fact that, this was the character who had to kind of go first. I was like, okay, you just lost the best actor you have in your movie early on there. But again, that would be a different movie, and it's not fair to do that. But I'm happy she's in it, but I also think they didn't use her well enough.
The way I read that is like, holy shit, we got Christina Hendricks, but they only got her for 8 days.
A few days.
Whatever.
Probably, you're right. Yeah.
But it's great to have her in the movie, and it'll be so shocking to the audience that she doesn't live past Act 1, right?
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do a Janet Leigh with her or something like that. Yeah.
And again, I do think that the movie kind of dips its hand that it's about the kids early. So the mom and dad kind of need, almost necessarily for the plot, need to be taken out.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the death of the dad is sort of the standout, brutal,
it is
awful moment of
very
the
much
movie that was like, oh yeah, I remember this feeling in the original Strangers. They're not completely different movies here for this particular moment. Like, to die that badly and with the uncertainty of the well-being of your kids, and to know that the person is drawing it out deliberately for their own amusement, like...
Yeah, he plays with him for quite a while. In there, yeah.
But that's one of the few things that kind of reminds you of the original. But I do largely like that they, other than the isolated setting and sort of the knock on the door, they did change the temperature of pretty much everything. It's got an 80s vibe to it. They have these 80s needle drops. And I love the trailer's park setting. I think I've mentioned it before, but it kind of reminds me of the Shirley Jackson story, the Summer People.
Okay.
Where an elderly couple decides to stay at their rented cottage beyond the time when the summer people usually stay, and that being a really bad error.
Yeah.
So I like that vibe of it, that. Yeah, all of a sudden, holy shit, it's almost an action movie for the third act. I was getting Terminator vibes with the burning car driving at her.
I got Christine vibes.
There you go. Yeah, that's another good one.
As far as the carpenter of it, but...
And I guess, I want to give it points because it genuinely surprised me.
Yeah.
I kind of just assumed this was going to end with the whole family dead and the strangers driving off because they want to make a franchise out of this. They just want to keep working this permutation again and again and again. And all of a sudden, the brother character suddenly kills one of them very definitively. And you're like, all right. And you're thinking, okay, this is turning around, which leads into the pool sequence, which I think is sort of the epic sort of centerpiece moment they're going for in the movie. And we've been cheering for this kid, and it doesn't play out well for him. You kind of make a you call bullshit on his living.
There's three things in that scene that I have the scene's completely ridiculous.
Right.
First of all, our stranger. Who is not revealed, has that hood. It must be the most remarkable hood because it stays on underwater, doesn't stick to the face where we can see who's under it or whatever. That's, again, whatever. I'll accept that. We've, in an earlier scene, Bailey Madison, I should probably use the character's name, but I don't have it in front of me, has been brutally, it was, this is injury where she's not getting out from where they hit her.
Yeah.
And she comes to her brother's rescue out of nowhere. This is a way different section of where this trailer park is, where this swimming pool is. I do not buy that for a second.
Yes, she definitely magically healed her
yes.
leg.
She's fine for the rest of the movie.
She found a healing salve, and suddenly she was able to... Because you're right, she could barely walk before.
She couldn't.
That was, again, one of the sort of cliches that I did look past. Or like the Baghead character dies about 3 times in this movie.
4 times. Well, you could argue a 4th based on the last scene. I mean, like seriously, why? Yeah, I get it. We've seen this before, but it's just
the unkillable killer. But again, I thought it was a good payoff, and I liked the turn of how things went from going surprisingly well for the brother to turning around and being awful. And I also kind of liked that he lived through the movie, because so many slasher movies, okay, he's done, he's off the board, but you'd be surprised how much abuse a body can take and actually sometimes pull through.
I guess so, because I mean, they wouldn't go back to, but it was bad. Like, and she's like, nobody, like, she's not getting picked up right away, and then she kind of forces her way out of there, and then they're in this really remote area. So how long is it going to take her to get some help, get it there, get an ambulance, get him back before he dies? Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, really? Seriously? We're having this scene in the hospital? Like, that's, you know, again, this is me fighting the movie, and I accepted a lot of really good stuff from it. So
yeah. I also think there's a thing, like, the original movie has this unexpectedly bleak ending, and this kind of has this unexpectedly, like, crazy happy ending. Like, they kill all the killers and somehow they both get out alive.
But then we have a knock on the door.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, and then to credits, and I'm like, no, folks, I don't. Well, we got to keep. Because I don't know if they knew what they were going to do with it next. I haven't watched either of the Chapter 1 or Chapter 2. I'm not hearing good things about Chapter 2. The more we see of this, probably the less scary it's going to be. But I think they still wanted that door open for the next chapter, even though they seem to have, you know,
those
solved some of
kinds
these
of
problems.
stingers. They had a great one is the original. I know what you did last summer. It just has a completely nonsensical final. Like, just, okay, whatever. Thanks for the last jump scare. Yeah, largely that's a bad instinct. But I have respect for director Rennie Harlan. But yeah, this Strangers trilogy that they're doing.
Oh, it's a trilogy. Okay, yeah. I haven't watched
Chapter 1, 2, and 3. They shot them all at once. They released them one at a time, and everybody hates them. But my rejecting them on conceit is it's about who the strangers are and why they do it, which tells me the people behind the movies completely missed the point of what the Strangers was about.
Yes, the first one was
just like.
I mean, I kind of equated them to a Manson family, but they aren't doing all of the preaching and all the talking that Manson did and that kind of thing. It's just like, these people could show up in any neighborhood at any time and come and do this, and then they move on to the next town or whatever neighborhood and keep doing this just for... That's much, much scarier than anything that we would see beyond this. And so that's where, you know, in a perfect world, that's to leave the strangers alone. Yeah, I've seen much worse second chapters. Like, this is not to get to Chapter 2. You were worried I'd watch Chapter 2.
I thought, oh shit, I should definitely stipulate I meant the Strangers Pray at Night.
Yeah. No, I know it's Pray at Night, and and I kind of said, well, now I'm because I've done this, I now open the door to watch this Strangers trilogy, just because now I have to, right?
Yeah. Well, if you have to,
you just have to.
You have to. I don't know. I haven't really delved further.
I still have the Strangers. I still think it freaks me out and can get into my head. And as I get older, when I'm alone in some sort of a remote location, I'm a lot more in my head than I used to be about that stuff. And so it seems to continually to affect me in that way. This doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form, other than the fact that it was entertaining enough. I had a good time.
Yeah, it's an exercise in genre. I may have oversold it at the beginning, but like I was just surprised how much I liked it. I guess
you were expecting the worst.
That's right,
which seems to be the current Strangers movies.
Well, yeah. Or to be at least underwhelmed. I didn't think I'd hate it. It's like a slasher movie. Like I am the target audience. I get that.
You are, yes, yeah. If you don't like it, then they've really missed the mark.
Yeah. So, but no, it was better than I thought. Great cast, some good suspenseful moments, some dumb moments. The trailer moment where the doll-faced girl scares her in the pipe, like. Who was that for? That was for the benefit of an audience that didn't exist in the world of the movie, right? Like, what? Why? And
she came out of the shadow. Yeah,
and like you said, when the mask is lifted, it does almost just for a second feel like a record scratch moment, and more than that she's smiling and like has that really lame response, like, why not?
No, it destroys the power of that character.
I would have rather she stayed silent, even if she was smiling, but if she didn't speak, I might have been more forgiving of that moment. But I have forgiven a lot more. Like, I've watched some slasher movies with some terrible acting, or where, like, there's this terrible, like, twist at the ending that just undoes all reason and logic.
Yeah.
So, like, no, this is well put together.
Yeah, no, I think people should see it if they haven't. I hesitated just because of my love of the Strangers, and I didn't.
Fair.
It's not hurting my love of the Strangers to watch Prey at Night.
You think it's the living that will have ultimate judgment over you.
Why are you doing this? What do you want?
Because the dead will have no claim over your soul.
No, I'm not gonna die! I'm not gonna die!
But you may be mistaken. But I am still among you. When faced with death, who should live versus who will live are two entirely separate things.
If it's Halloween, it must be Saw.
You will be put to the test.
Saw 6.
He helped me.
So, sequels for horror movies, they're inevitable. Like, even if a movie's terrible, if it made enough money, they're going to make a sequel to it, right? And especially with horror movies, just never, ever expect it to die. And in a way, I did this particular episode of the Film Club to, like, scratch a bunch of sequels off the list. But what's interesting to me is that when I gave you a couple options of which ones could be your Film Club list, you were like, ooh, Saw 6, I want to do that one. Is it that you're that passionate about horror sequels or that passionate about Saw? Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I would hardly call this a horror sequel. I mean, it is, obviously, it's part 6 in a series. One of my notes when I was watching it is actually feels kind of like popping into the middle of a telenovela, where, you know, there's like these, oh my god, Miss FBI lady, I thought you were dead. Like, boom.
Yeah.
But none of that really, it doesn't matter. Everybody's just going to die anyway. It's not about anything. I think more generically related, it reminds me of, like, it's the early 2000s version of the 1980s Friday the 13th movies. It is exactly what it is. I enjoy the mindlessness of the Friday the 13th movies. I enjoy the fun that they obviously have in coming up with these, you know, contrived deaths. And Saw has that. Like, they're not good. Obviously they're not good, but they're comfortable. They're like eating mac and cheese for supper.
I guess for me, Friday the 13th knows what it is. Whereas Saw seems to think that it's about something more than people dying violent deaths. It's kind of pretentious and overly complicated and preachy. And, like, spoilers for your beloved Saw franchise. By Saw 10, yes, there's 10 of them now. Jigsaw is full on the protagonist. We are cheering for him.
This was one of my notes that I made when I was watching this. So I have watched Saw movies. I haven't watched them in sequence, so it's just all of them are just like, again, watching a different episode of a soap opera that instead of romantic intrigue, there's silly killing. This one especially, I was wondering who the movie wanted us to cheer for, because surely we weren't supposed to cheer for the crooked real estate agent who was kind of like the nominal protagonist, I guess. He had to get out of a series of traps.
Right.
But he was a piece of shit, and, you know...
Hard to invest.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why the world cheered on that guy a couple of years ago who murdered the CEO of an insurance company. I mean, it's exactly this, one of those corporate guys that makes a lot of money by peddling human misery. So... even though it was treating him like a protagonist, it was also treating him like he deserved to die. And the other main guy, who was, I guess, the antagonist, but he got a lot of the screen time, was that one
Hoffman.
FBI guy who was also secretly a Saw guy. But, like, he was the kind of guy that you just want him, like, just looking at his face, you want his face to be in a Saw bear trap. Like, he's just got that bear trappable face. So, like, what did I couldn't tell who the movie wanted us to root for, but then I thought, well, it just wants us to root for silly ways to kill people, and I was there for that.
Just show up for the sex and violence, which is what I'm saying Friday the 13th is kind of honest about, whereas Saw is like pretending. Like, this wants to be about the broken, healthcare system in the United States, and sort of like a statement against it. This guy who had been running a company denying people their health care, making money off of this, he and his entire staff gets sort of hung up on this. And maybe if they were laser focused on punishing evil, you could get behind the morality of it. But I don't think the old janitor deserved a death sentence because he was a smoker, or the random dude who was young and had no family and friends, so his death wouldn't be missed. Like, what the fuck did he do to deserve to be in a Saw trap? And why does the Jigsaw, set traps for the police who are investigating him? That's not very altruistic and valuing life. And it's just so incredibly easy to pull threads that I can't help but pull threads. Like, yes, for the 13th time, sometime in the next few years, a bunch of dumb kids are going to go to Camp Crystal Lake, and Jason is going to kill them. But at least I'm not being fucking sermonized, right? Also,
yeah, I thought it was less preachy. Like, it condemned things. It really is a finger-wagging kind of franchise. But, like, in terms of the amount of screen time it took up, it seemed pretty minimal to me. At least I could kind of ignore it. Like, it wasn't the most annoying thing about it.
Right.
The most annoying thing, I thought, was that awful blue filter that was so popular in early 2000s movies, which I have to blame the Coen brothers for, ever since they used the brown filter so well in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou. The people just went fucking bukkake with those filters.
Everybody says me too, me too. It's very noticeable. A lot of those films. I watched The Ring again fairly recently, and there's all sorts of that sort of color filtered stuff in that as well, and just sort of screams of that time.
Yeah.
Saw made a mistake because I think that they tried to wrap things up in the third movie, and spoilers for Saw 3, Jigsaw was killed off. So they were like, well, this made way too much money, and they're super cheap to produce, so we're making more Saw. So then it became about his apprentices, and who is a good apprentice, and who isn't, and can they evade the police, or should they evade the police? And then they start doing, like, prequels and chapters that fit in between other chapters, where we get to see the further adventures of this Kramer dude, and it gets so convoluted and so, like, ridiculously, like, frustratingly tied up in knots by itself that it's like, I don't even want to take it seriously. And that is the real thing with, like, Saw takes itself so seriously. There's no wink of fun to this.
Okay, counterpoint.
Yes.
Saw is coming off the end of that 90s era where everything is winky and everything is
Fehr.
ironic, sort of like the Wes Craven Scream effect. And I think it really is one of the reasons why this franchise was so profitable, because people were sick of all the lampshading and they just wanted something that took itself seriously. And in a lot of ways, I'm not defending the plot. I'm really not. And the morality of it's not a non-starter. But it was nice that there's no lampshading, that it took itself very seriously.
And I can appreciate that. The first Saw, it was less about the taking itself on straight, but it was more about, it was another serial killer movie, right? It was like, we want to outdark Seven, we want to outdark The Bone Collector, we want to outdark whatever was the most recent serial killer movie. And like, there's TV shows that cover this territory. It's all like, we've been here so many times before. So to pretend that this was some sort of amazing thing, I mean, look, I have respect for the filmmakers. The guys who did the first one, the same team that brought us the Conjuring movies, and like, they're strong filmmakers, and they stick to the horror genre, and I like them. And they got their money from Saw, and they kind of took it to go into other projects, and probably still making more money off of this until the Conjuring hit. Anyway, they made more money off of Saw than anything else, I imagine.
Yeah, well, now the Conjuring is just making
everywhere.
billions of dollars.
Yeah. I guess we should talk specifically about Saw 6 since we're here and we're taking all this time and energy. Yes.
Sure, but I think we've already talked about it insofar as it's set pieces.
That's right.
And I really liked how quickly it got into things. Like, these two people wake up in a saw trap. I think the first one is they had to cut off a pound of flesh each and throw it down a chute, and then we just saw them like cutting their bodies apart, and then one of them died and one of them didn't, and then boom, like we're in the movie.
Well, that was the different thing about this entry, as far as I remember. All the traps was one person was going to die and one person would get out of it type of scenario. Like, it was usually based on a decision that the CEO character had to make, but by design, not everybody was getting out of these traps. The big one was the merry-go-round, where he's got 6 staff members all strapped in, but he can only save 2 of them, and he has to listen to them all make their case to live, just like he had his entire life in his office.
Yeah.
But now it's made intensely personal. So...
Well, the other thing is, we learn at the end, because you were talking about the preachiness of it, and this movie seems to be, like, I don't know, a dark version of A Christmas Carol, where an evil rich guy is confronted with his deeds. So like this one, his whole life has been him deciding who lives and who dies. So he's like confronted, and the guy's saying like, "Don't look away, don't look away." But then in the end, we realize that he's just another piece in the Saw game. It's not even his story.
No. Every of the Saw movies have to have this big double twist at the end. And I think in this case, is this family that we see imprisoned occasionally, we intuitively were supposed to believe that it's his family. But it turns out that this is a family of somebody who he basically allowed to die through his denial of services. And so instead of waking up to celebrate a nice Christmas morning, he gets to learn all of these hard lessons and then die miserably. Hoffman is interesting in that Costas Mandylor was like a bit player in one of the previous movies, but then they decided they were going to make Saw 4, and they thought, how do we make Saw 4? Okay, we take this character who really had nothing to do other than a handful of lines in a previous movie, and we're going to amp him up to be the new Kramer. So he just lucked into it.
I appreciate this about the Saw franchise. It kind of reminds me of the Canadian novelist Robertson Davies. When he writes his trilogies, the first book will be about somebody, and then there'll be like a little bit character, and the second book will be about this person, and the third book will be about somebody else that appeared. So in one of the stories, they get introduced enough so that you're not confused about who they are, but then in the second one you get completely different perspectives.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they handle characterization particularly well, but I just like the idea of like the camera moving and focusing on somebody else for one of the others.
The movie sort of starts with when we meet Hoffman, he's sort of cleaning up one of his crime scenes, and through reference to the movie before, this was the main cop from the last 2 movies that had been trying to bring him down, that he had defeated. This guy was just trying to avenge the death of his partner, completely innocent. Again, I'm always weirded out. Like, when he stops the FBI and the cops from finding him, and he murders these people and sets this dude on fire while he's still alive, how are we supposed to be feeling about this? Are we supposed to be like, yeah, Hoffman, good for you, you got him? Or are we supposed to be horrified? Because watching it, genuine, like, out of context, just watching 6 by itself, I had no idea how I was supposed to feel at all.
Yeah, he was either the hero or the villain.
Right.
And he wasn't doing a great job of being either, which is why he could have been either.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose Jigsaw is supposed to be like the force of vengeance or retribution, but he can't really be the protagonist, in part because he's dead. So, yeah, it really does. It has issues with focus. But the same thing with those the earlier Friday the 13th movies, not the ones where, like the Freddy vs. Jason era or the Jason X, but like, parts 2 through 6. Well, not 5, but you get what I mean. Like the campers, there'll be 1 or 2 campers, like the final girl, who's kind of the protagonist, but you don't care particularly. Like, what you're really in it for is how Jason's going to kill somebody this time.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't think about it, it's amusing in its way.
I think with Friday the 13th, the turning point is Chapter 6. I think with Jason Lives, Jason moves from villain to protagonist of the series for some reason. But
no, it's number 6 is where Tommy is clearly the protagonist.
But there's this scene where Jason arises out of this trailer where he's just killed these 2 kids and he's silhouetted by the moon and he's standing on top of it, and it's like this superhero silhouette. It's like really,
yeah, I suppose.
or yeah, just when the characters do something so stupid that you're almost like, you know what, you deserve this. Why did you hide on the boat? Dive off the boat and swim. What are you doing?
You need to get over Jason Takes Manhattan.
I think Saw 6 is, I guess, fun in the way masturbating is fun. Enjoy yourself, just don't think too much about what you're doing while you're doing it. Which I guess is what I would say about a lot of the Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Streets, but I much, much prefer the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Streets. So,
you know what Saw would be good for?
What's that?
Is TikToks.
Right?
Right, just any one of those scenes in a minute and a half outside of context, like it's just a bunch of TikToks, and when there's boring talking bits, those can be like the ones that you scroll past.
I also just have a distaste for any movie, really, that thinks it's smarter than it is.
Yeah, I don't know how smart I think it thinks it is. Like,
yeah?
I kind of, it felt to me like it thinks it's doing the bare minimum. One of the things about the Saw movies that I noticed, or number 6 that I noticed this time, is there's a real cheapness to it. It looks like it has the production values of an NCIS or something.
Right.
I think they were like coming out one per year for a long time.
6 years.
So I don't feel like this was anybody's passion project. I think the writer thought, well, we need something. Like,
yeah.
we can't just string these kills together. We need to have some sort of interstitial plot. So they whipped this, I don't even know what the ethos of the Saw guy is. Like, you have to enjoy life or appreciate it, but also sometimes I kill random people. So
right.
It's like, don't worry about it. We got to start filming.
That is the key. Don't worry about it. Did he really set up all these traps in an abandoned zoo before his death, including pre-recording these things? Or was this all somehow Hoffman as well? Again, don't think about it.
Yeah.
So,
which is what I think the tagline should be. Saw, don't think about it.
Good enough. Is there anything else you want to say about Saw 6?
No, just I can't say it's a guilty pleasure because I don't feel guilty about it. They're not good, but they are what they are.
Yeah. Saw 2 is my personal favorite, if that means anything to you.
It means the world to me.
We did it. We got through 6 slasher sequels, which puts me in the position of having to rank them. Now, this is an interesting one in that I'm a fan of the genre, so like a mediocre slasher movie is going to, on some level, connect the dots and work for me. So I feel like this list is highly, highly personal, and every time I look at it, it doesn't exactly seem right, but I've been sort of tinkering for long enough that I've just decided to live with it. The thing is that I would say 4 out of the 5 of these are pretty, like, if you're into that genre, I think you'll get fun out of. And then there's a wild card, and then there's one that I just don't think works. So I'm going to put the one that I didn't think worked for me at the bottom, and that's The Hitcher 2. Please, if you're going to make a sequel, change the setting, mix things up a little bit, but especially if it's a, quote, legacy sequel, don't destroy everything you accomplished in the previous entry. I feel if no other lesson was learned by Alien 3, there's that. If there's characters that we've invested in, like, don't scrap them in your next movie for no reason, or and it's just, it tactically feels like a direct-to-video movie that maybe needed a little more effort put behind it, especially considering the polish and the as far as slasher movies go, kind of prestige of the original Hitcher. So Hitcher 2 is in 6th place. Controversially, I'm going to put Saw 6 in 5th place. I don't think the Saw movies are necessarily good, but I don't think, you necessarily watch a Saw movie because it's good. It's sort of like the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil movies. You don't watch them because they're good. It's just the spectacle of the big budget zombie violence, or in Saw, the spectacle of these insane traps and the weird moral, I was going to say ambiguity, but it's just the moral mess that is all of the Saw movies. It is what it is. It's not poorly executed. It might even be one of the better Saw entries, but one of the better Saw entries still only makes 5th place for me. Not as huge a fan of the Saw franchise. I'm sorry. In 4th place, to get your 80s on, I'm putting Psycho 3. It is the most rickety, I think, of the Psycho franchise, but it's not trying. It does, understand its Hitchcockian roots and play with both suspense and with slasher violence. But I don't know that the balance is there or that it's completely comfortable. But as a throwback watch of something from the 80s, there's a weird, this is something that passed muster comfortably and now just seems kind of odd watching it. There's a lot of strange decisions and strange character beats, but not necessarily in a way that takes away from the movie. It just sort of gives it another coat of paint. It makes it more of an interesting watch. In 3rd place, Wrong Turn to Dead End. Considering how enthusiastic Scott and I were, I guess maybe 3rd place seems a little low, but I think I was enthusiastic because of how much it overperformed. It's another direct-to-video sequel, and everybody involved seemed to really like Wrong Turn 1 and want to make the best Wrong Turn sequel that they could. There's dated aspects of sort of the criticism of reality TV shows that seem a little on the nose or obvious now, but I don't know. It's goofy, it's rickety, it's fun, it's violent, it's knowingly dumb fun. 3rd place, Wrong Turn to Dead End. In 2nd place, which is a movie that I actually had sort of sounded more mixed on, I think because of the technical filmmaking from this director, I'm giving it to Wolf Creek 2. It got under my skin. It's got really vicious, ugly, tactile violence that a lot of the slasher set are really going to get into. It's vicious and ugly, and also has more energy to it. The first Wolf Creek sort of felt like a crawl, whereas this one feels like a sprint, but it delivers everything that the first movie did and, puts a little extra in there. It's like hard to say that it's a fun movie, but it is really well made, really well acted, and a good example of this sort of genre. Just because I prefer a lighter, goofier slasher movie doesn't mean that I can't respect one that goes hard. Wolf Creek goes hard, and Wolf Creek 2 is in 2nd place. So somehow, Strangers Prey at Night made number 1 for me. Again, I was just surprised at how much I liked it. I was prepared to not like it. I like the retro 80s sort of Carpenter-esque vibe. I like the flip that happened at the end of the movie, where instead of repeating the original Strangers movies, they didn't leave you in a desperate, grim, unsatisfying place. Instead, good triumphs over evil, and the story of the Strangers is closed, it seems, in the 2nd installment. And I wasn't expecting to see that, and I actually quite enjoyed seeing it. And I guess for overperforming for me, and for maybe the 2 mean things that I've said about the director in the past, I actually quite enjoyed Strangers Prey at Night, and I guess I'm giving it 1st place. But what we have here is just an example of 6 pretty solid slasher sequels that are going to appeal to fans of this genre, and probably nobody else. Thank you so much for listening to this Film Club edition of Rank and Review. The Film Club will reconvene, and we will be going on about creature comedies, horror and comedy, the chocolate and peanut butter of entertainment. That will be happening in the next installment, and you have that to look forward to. Please consider checking out Jason Dubray's podcast, The Shelf Shedding Movie Show. Check out the Rank and Review website at ranknreview.ca. Check out our presence on YouTube. And thank you so much for listening. Maybe tell that other film fan in your life about Rank and Review. We drop every other Wednesday.